Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I am doing a bit of a response video. My good friend Scott over at Scott the Movie Critic, he did a video recently where he gave his top 10 films of the 21st century. And at the end of the video, he tagged a few people, and I was one of the people he tagged to do my own video. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give you my top 10 films from the 21st century. I'll be starting with number 10, which is my least favourite, and then going all the way to number 1, which is my absolute favourite of the 21st century. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. Right, so in first place, we have a movie that came out, I think, in the year 2000. So we're starting right at the beginning of the 21st century. This is a movie that stars Tom Hanks, and it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, and it is Castaway. So yeah, for anyone who may not know what this film's about, it stars Tom Hanks, and he plays this guy who works for, I think it's UPS, like a delivery company in America. And he's on a cargo plane, and as the plane is sort of crossing over the ocean, it gets caught in this horrific storm. The plane crashes. He's the sole survivor of the crash, and he ends up on this island in the middle of nowhere. But luckily for him, a lot of the packages from the plane also wash up on shore, so he's able to use the items in the packages to aid him in his survival on the island. And yeah, most of the film is set on this island, and it's about him sort of having to survive on the island, having to come to terms with being there, and then it all kind of leads into his eventual escape from the island. And you know, there are many reasons why I love this film, but one in particular is I love the use of sound in it. When the film is set on the island, there is no music whatsoever. I think it was a creative choice so that they could, you know, show how isolated he was, and you know, why would you hear music on a desert island if you're the only one on there? So I think the use of sound in place of the music is really good. I think Tom Hanks is brilliant in it. He had to go through a couple of transformations in this film. I think they had to shoot one portion of the film where he was a little bit overweight. These are the scenes that don't take place on the island. And then they had to shoot these scenes where he's lost all the weight and he's grown out his hair and on his beard and, you know, on his head. And so it's quite a transformation from him. And I just think the story itself is quite an emotional one. I think it's all of the stuff on the island is great. There's some really tense moments, and it leads to an eventual very emotional conclusion. And yeah, I just can't speak highly of this film. I've always loved it, and it's one that I always enjoy putting on every now and then. So yeah, that is Castaway in 10th place. Next up, we have a film that came out in 2015, and this is a film that I didn't see at the cinema. And to this day, it's one of my biggest regrets because I feel like it would have been a brilliant cinema-going experience. So the movie is Mad Max Fury Road. So yeah, I grew up on the Mad Max films, and I've always been a fan of them. And I can remember this film being in development for, it must have been at least 20 years. And I can remember that, you know, reading that they were going to have Mel Gibson back in it, and then I was reading, oh no, they're not going to have Mel Gibson back. They're going to recast the role. And there was all this sort of all these rumors about who was going to play Mad Max, and then eventually it was Tom Hardy. And yeah, when this film came out and I got around to seeing it, I just loved it, and I fell in love with it instantly. The Mad Max films are not big on story. They never have been. So, you know, even this film, there isn't really much of a story. The characters just kind of, they go all the way to one point and then they have to come all the way back. And it's just one big, long car chase. But what I love about this film is it's just so entertaining, and it's so relentless from minute one. And I just think it's one of the greatest action films that we've had in the last 10 or 15 years or so. I love the fact that I think about 90% of this movie is practical effects. So it's just a visually stunning film, and some of the things that they were able to pull off during the making, it's just incredible, really. And you consider George Miller, the director, who is in his more advanced years, but you know, that doesn't stop him from making just an absolutely relentless and amazing action film with loads of great stunts in it. And yeah, this is a movie I put on every now and then when I just want to be entertained. And yeah, I always get that with this movie. So yeah, that is Mad Max Fury Road in 9th place. Next up in 8th place, we have a movie that I did go to the cinema to see. And to this day, it's still probably one of my favourite ever cinema experiences. And the movie is Blade Runner 2049. So yeah, this is the long-awaited sequel to the original Blade Runner, which is one of my all-time favorite films. And I will admit, when this film was announced, I was very, very skeptical about it. I think, because I was such a big fan of the original, I kind of was wondering why they were doing this, and I didn't really see the point in it. But I've got to admit, when I saw this film, I was really, really impressed with it. And I think it's probably one of the few like legacy sequels, if you like, that I think works, and it actually does justice to the original, which is something I can't say for a lot of legacy sequels that we're getting these days. I think it's a good, solid continuation of the original film. I think the story is very compelling. I think there's quite a lot of mystery in there, which is very good. It's visually one of the best looking films I've ever seen. And not only that, the use of sound, the use of music, it's just a wonderful visual, audible experience. You've got a great performance from Ryan Gosling. You've got a great performance from Harrison Ford, albeit he is not in that much of the film, but it's still great to see him nonetheless. And yeah, it's just a film that I really, really enjoy. And it was one that definitely surprised me because I went into it expecting not to like it. And I think in some cases it kind of surpasses the original. But I do think in my heart, the original will always be my favourite. But I do think Blade Runner 29 is a very, very worthy sequel to the original. So yeah, that is Blade Runner 2049 in 8th place. Next up, we have, in 7th place, we have a film directed by Quentin Tarantino. And he's made some great films since the turn of the century. But for me, this is still my favourite of his more recent films. And it is Inglourious Basterds. So yeah, this is his sort of homage to World War II films. You think of the likes of The Dirty Dozen, The Battle of the Bulge, and films like that. But I think this is just an incredible film. I think the script is just wonderful. I think it's got such a great story. There's a lot of different things going on here. We have an abundance of characters, some very colourful characters in here. The standout is obviously Christoph Waltz as the main villain. But you've got Brad Pitt in there playing a pretty fun role for him. And yeah, I just think it is such an amazing film. I particularly love the opening sequence, which I think is still to this day one of the most nail-biting opening scenes to a movie. And not only that, you've got some other great sequences. There's another one that takes place in a tavern, which again is another nail-biting scene. And I just love all of the different things going on in this movie. It's split into 4 or 5 chapters. And like I said, there's just a lot of different subplots, different characters in it. And yeah, it's just a thoroughly entertaining film. I know he has made some other films since the turn of the century, like the Kill Bills, Django Unchained, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I feel like those films get a lot more recognition. And this one's almost become a little bit lost in his filmography, but for me, it's still one of his best. And I think after Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, this would be my next favorite Tarantino film. Yeah, just a wonderful film, very entertaining, and yeah, it is my 7th place in my favorite films from the 21st century. So yeah, that is Inglourious Basterds in 7th place. Next up in 6th place, we have a movie that it actually took me a long time to come around to this film. Well, it took me a long time to see it. I'd always known about this film and I'd always known how good it was, but for whatever reason, I didn't see it for the first time until about 10 years ago. But when I finally watched this film, it was an instant classic for me, and it is Battle Royale. So, yep, this is a Japanese film directed by Kinji Fukasaku. And it involves these young children or these teenagers who they essentially get abducted and taken to this island, and they're forced to take part in this game where they basically just have to kill each other, and they have to use any means necessary to kill each other. And the last one surviving will be the winner of the game, essentially. And yeah, this film has had a lot of praise over the years. And like I said, once I saw this film, I instantly loved it and I couldn't wait to watch it again. It is just, again, like some of the other films I've mentioned, very, very relentless from minute one. It's very creative in what it does with the concept. There's a lot of violence in here. There's some interesting characters. There's even some strong emotional beats throughout the story, which you wouldn't really expect. But everything about it just fits and works really well. And yeah, it's just got a good combination of an interesting story and that entertainment value to it. And yeah, I just can't really praise this film highly enough. I was super impressed with it when I watched it, and it immediately became one of my all-time favorites after I saw it. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But yeah, that is Battle Royale in sixth place. Right, so into fifth place now, and I am going to go with No Country for Old Men, directed by the Coen brothers, and it stars Josh Brolin, Tommy Lee Jones, and Javier Bardem. And yeah, I remember this film. I think it came out around about 2007, 2008. And I can remember I was in my last year of school, and we had this film club that we sometimes went to at the end of the day. And I remember the teacher who ran the film club, he showed us this film, and it was a first time watch for, I think, most of us in the class. And I just remember after the film ended, we all just kind of sat there in a stunned silence, and we couldn't really believe what we saw. It's such a hard film to describe, but you know, it's just a fantastic sort of neo-noir western where Josh Brolin's character, he stumbles across this like case full of money in the middle of the desert, and he decides to take it for himself because, you know, he has some financial troubles and he feels like the money will do him some good. But what he doesn't count on is the fact that Javier Bardem plays this. He's sort of like this hitman who the money was meant for him, and he ends up going after Josh Brolin's character. To say this film is a nail biter is a huge understatement. It is just such a gripping film that leads to quite a shocking conclusion, let's say. But, you know, as well as having such an intense story, it's just a fantastic looking film. You know, the cinematography, I believe, is by Roger Deakins, which is just, it just makes the film look so much more beautiful than it is. I mean, I don't know how you can make a desert look so good, but it does. And yeah, it's just supported by some incredible performances. You know, the standout being Javier Bardem as the main villain of the film. Like, he is, you know, a genuinely intense villain, and his presence is just, you know, you feel his presence and you feel how intimidating he is when you watch it, when you watch him on screen. I love this film. Great film by the Coen brothers. Quite different to a lot of the films we used to from them, which tend to be more dark comedies, whereas this film is just a very dark, intense thriller. But yeah, it's just a fantastic movie and one that I've always loved. So yeah, that is No Country for Old Men in fifth place. Right, so into fourth place now, and I'm going to go with a film that I think is probably the most underrated film on my list, and definitely one of the most underrated horror films out there. And it is The Orphanage from 2007. So this is a Spanish horror / drama. And again, this was another film that I think I saw for the first time in that same film club that I mentioned with the previous film. But this is a film that over the years is just, it's always left some like a lasting impact on me. And so to describe it, it's about this this woman who, when she was a kid, she grew up in this orphanage in the countryside in Spain, and she grows up, leaves the orphanage, and she ends up starting a family. But she decides to go back to the orphanage, which has since long been abandoned, and she wants to reopen it and redo it and reopen it as an orphanage. But once they go back to the orphanage and they start sort of renovating it and all that kind of stuff, she starts to notice some strange things there, and she starts to uncover the dark history of the orphanage. And as well as that, she has a young boy herself who mysteriously disappears near the start of the film. And you know, part of it is, you know, them trying to find her son, and also discovering more about the history of this orphanage. And it builds to, for me, a very, very emotional conclusion. And you know, it always kind of gives me goosebumps when the credits roll. I think this film balances the sort of the creepy moments very well, along with the dramatic elements. And I think, you know, the performances in it are top notch. And yeah, I just think it's a very, very powerful horror slash drama, which you'd put alongside with the likes of The Sixth Sense or Hereditary or The Others or Midsummer, films like that kind of balance the horror and the drama. I love this film. It's one of my favorite horror films, and I think, yeah, certainly is my favorite horror film of the 21st century, and it is my fourth favorite. So yeah, that is The Orphanage. Right, so into third place now, and I'm going to go with 2008's In Bruges, directed by Martin McDonagh, starring Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Ralph Fiennes. And yeah, this film, for anyone who doesn't know, it's about these two hitmen played by Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, and they are sent to hide out in Bruges after this assassination attempt kind of went wrong for them. And initially, they think they're just in Bruges to hide out, but then as the film progresses, you realise that they've been sent there for more than just to hide out, and that there is something else going on. For me, this film has probably one of the wittiest scripts I've ever read, and it's probably it's the best example I can give for a dark comedy. This film has moments where it really shocks me, and there's some genuine moments where my jaw is literally on the floor. But then at the same time, there'll be other scenes where I'm literally just in fits of laughter. It's one of the most quotable films I've ever seen. Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson just, they bounce off each other so well. And also you've got Ralph Fiennes, who he's essentially playing the main villain of the film, but he is just outstanding in this film. And yeah, it's just a great sort of dark comedy, thriller, gangster type film. But God, I just love this film, and it's just so thoroughly entertaining from start to finish. And it photographs Bruges really well, which we don't really see all that often in films. Yeah, it's just a fantastic film, and I really implore anyone who hasn't seen it to give it a go. But yeah, that is In Bruges in third place. Right, so into my second place now, and I'm going to go with 2001's Donnie Darko. So yeah, where do I start with this film? I mean, to try and explain the plot, I'd be here for the next 2 hours, so I'm not even really going to do that. But this film stars Jake Gyllenhaal, and he plays this kid called Donnie Darko. He's a bit of a troubled kid. He's still going through school, and he survives this freak accident where an engine from a plane drops from the sky and it lands right in his bedroom. But he just happens to be out of the house when this happens, and the film kind of goes from there, and it tries to unravel the mystery by why that happened and what's going on in his life, because he keeps having these visions, he keeps having these encounters with certain people, certain entities, and you realize there's something strange that is going on in this town, and it all seems to revolve around him. I've seen this film many times, and sometimes I understand the plot and sometimes I don't. But what I love about this film is just how engrossing it is from a mystery point of view, and how intoxicating it is. And it's one of those films where I think the first time I saw it, I can remember I was still thinking about this film days and days after. And I think when a film has the power to do that to you, it has to have had some sort of effect on you. And yeah, it's just one that always does every time I watch it. And yeah, it's just one of the most unique, interesting films I think I've ever seen, and I think we're ever going to likely see. And yeah, I just can't praise it highly enough for its atmosphere, its mystery, and it's really sort of interesting, clever concept. So yeah, that is Donnie Darko in second place. Right, so into my first place now. So my favourite ever movie from the 21st century, and it is David Lynch's Mulholland Drive from 2001. Yeah, kind of similar to Donnie Darko. This is a film that when I saw it for the first time, I couldn't stop thinking about this movie. And maybe I'm cheating a little bit because I do love David Lynch. I love Twin Peaks. I love Lost Highway. I love Eraserhead. I love a whole load of his films. And I've always enjoyed his sort of style of filmmaking and how, you know, for his films, he kind of leaves it to your own imagination on how you interpret the film. But I don't think this film is actually all that difficult to follow if you can kind of get to the end. It's one of those films where when you're watching it for the first time, it will seem very confusing at first, but then you get to the last sort of 20 minutes or so, and suddenly a light switch just comes on like that, and you're like, oh my God, like, I get it. And that's one thing I love about this film. Kind of like Donnie Darko, it's got a great sense of mystery, it's got a great atmosphere, and it builds to just a brilliant conclusion. But the main highlight for me in this movie is Naomi Watts. I think her performance in this is just outstanding, really. And for me, it's an Oscar-worthy performance. But you know, these types of films never really used to get the recognition back then. But yeah, just a wonderful mystery, and you know, sort of like the themes involved are, you know, they can be quite heavy hitting in places, and it's just a great sort of tribute to film itself. And there's like that Hollywood aspect to it, which David Lynch always kind of uses a lot, or he did use a lot in his own films. And yeah, I just can't really praise this film highly enough. Great performances, interesting story, interesting concept, great use of sound, great use of music, and just wonderful direction from David Lynch. And I don't think he ever bettered this film. And yeah, I just can't praise it highly enough. It's one that just gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. And you know a film is special when it has the power to be able to do that to you. So yeah, that is my number one spot. That is Mulholland Drive in first place. So there you go, guys. Those are my top 10 films of the 21st century. Want to give a shout out again to Scott, Scott the Movie Critic. Thanks a lot, Scott, for tagging me in this. I had a lot of fun doing this video. I won't tag anyone else to do the video, because I think this video has been making the rounds for quite a while, so I feel like a lot of people have probably done their own videos. But you know, if you'd like to do your own response video, then please feel free. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it. Let me know in the comments below if any of you guys have seen these movies and what do you think of them, and what would your top 10 films be of the 21st century. I would really enjoy to hear your thoughts. So yeah, I'll leave the video there, guys. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you all again on the next one. So take care.